Hell yeah, this game kicks so much ass. Oh, what the hell's going on?
Oh, come on, what the hell's... Aw, son of a...
Well, great. Now what can I play? Wait, hold on. Maybe, just maybe, if I go back far enough, they wouldn't care. And that's gonna be the case, then it's time to go back as far as possible.
Megami Tensei is certainly not an unknown series. This franchise has been going around for well over 30 years, with more than 40 titles, multiple spin-offs, animes, mangas, and oh god, stop! It's hard to imagine that the whole thing started with a trilogy of novels. Yeah, that's right. Megami Tensei was originally a novel written by Aya Nishitani, who I doubt foresaw what this game would eventually spawn. The first title was released in September 11th, 1987 for the Famicom and nowhere else. This is one game we definitely did not get for the NES. Hell, we didn't get so much as a glimpse of this franchise until Jack Brothers for Virtual Boy was released. Yeah, of all consoles, Virtual Boy. Though Persona could be considered the first real Megami Tensei game we got in the US.
Alright, enough with the history lesson already. Let's just play the damn game.
When booting up the game and not pressing start, you're shown this incredible cutscene of the main guy slamming his hand on the keyboard while the story is told. As far as I know, the story is somewhat based off the third novel in the series, Tensei no Shuen. Please don't ask me what that means. Where our two protagonists, Nakajima and Yumiko, enter the digital devil world to fight off Lucifer and his minions. When starting the game, you're given 15 points to distribute to your two characters. So I decided to mainly focus on a single attribute for each of them. I'm sure this won't bite me in the ass or anything. After powering up our heroes, the two of them go into the labyrinth and then it switches to a first-person mode. The game plays out more like wizardry if anything. You go around on a grid-like space, exploring various rooms for treasures, monsters, you know, the usual stuff. And since this is an NES game, you're gonna die. A lot.
You son of a bitch.
When you die, you're sent back to the main menu. If you want to continue your progress, you're gonna have to put in a password, which you get from some old man in the beginning of the town. Go into the password menu and oh no. I mean, I know I'm gonna have to deal with these kind of things when it comes to old games, but just look at this. And the thing about this password is that when starting out, you only need to deal up to this point. But the further you go, the longer the password gets. Now, since this is an old school dungeon crawler, you're gonna get lost without a map. So, it's time to bring out the good old grid map and some pencils and start drawing. Or I guess you could just go look it up online, cause screw writing this stuff down. This game does technically have a map. You cast the spell Mappa and you get a mini map on the screen. I'm sure this is helpful to some degree, but I personally never used it since drawing the map is a lot more handy. Now what would a JRPG be without some random encounters? And let me just say, the encounter rate is atrocious. While walking around, you can make it a few steps before getting into a battle, but I swear, going through these doors, I seem to go into a fight 90% of the time. It's annoying as hell, and God forbid if you go through multiple doors in quick succession. Anyways, the battle screen stays in first person and an enemy shows up. Despite showing only one enemy, the text box will say how many there are at once. And because of how close the demon is to you, you can just stare at all those glorious pixels just looking at you, or
I have no idea how to feel about an 8-bit sprite winking at me.
You're given some options during battle, such as talking. That's right, even back then, you could talk to your enemies. This was the biggest draw for this game, recruiting demons then fusing them to create more powerful demons to join your side. Though, much like the other games, It gets aggravating when you get to the last demon, talk to it, and it just runs away. Not only does this waste your items when you ask for them, but you also don't get any experience or money from the battle. Even if you murder an entire army of guys, cast a lot of spells, and start having flashbacks of your life up to this point as you're about to draw your last breath, if that one monster gets away, you might as well have not fought at all. But if you do manage to recruit a demon, you can summon up to 3 at a time and they'll be able to help you in battle. Assuming you have mag with you. What is mag, you might be asking? Well, they're essentially a form of currency, I suppose. You get them after winning battles. As long as you have a demon summoned, they'll drain your mag as you're walking around. The more powerful the demon, the more mag they'll cost while out. Honestly, this can get a little annoying early on, as I generally keep the demons tucked away, never seeing the light of day, so I can save my mag for the harder fights, such as boss battles. Like this big Minotaur guy. He's your first real fight in my eyes. He can take a hit like a tank and crushes you as if you're tin foil. So you need to screw around, figure out which demons you can recruit since some demons can't even talk, which honestly makes sense looking at some of them, and fuse them to create more powerful monsters just to even stand a chance. I ended up getting so powerful early on, I could just take on every enemy with just the 2 main characters. You know what, I should probably get to talking about the combat. The game seems to play like any other JRPG. You select your actions, then choose your enemy. Choose your enemy? What the hell? You can't select which enemy to attack? Yeah, when you select fight, your character selects randomly which enemy they will hit. And this is my biggest issue with this game. Due to this system, a good bit of the fights can seem longer than they should because these people seem to attack the enemies you don't want to. Oh, for f***ing sakes, just kill them already! I hate this system. On top of how annoying it can be just to kill a regular enemy, it's boring as hell the further I get. Because of this system, I never feel like I need to strategize that much. Just mash the A button until the game says I win and then go through the dungeon. Since this game is 90% combat, I find it really hard to push through this game because battling is a waste of my time. It gets worse in the second area. It's around here that you'll have to fight 2 or 3 waves of enemies every fight, stopping you in your tracks for far longer than it should. On top of how boring these fights get, combined with the encounter rate, it feels like I barely make any progress since these guys won't let me through. And keep in mind, if you die, you have to reload your save and effectively have to start all over. So you have to run all the way back to where you left off just so you can get another chance. It doesn't help that this place is filled with so many dead ends, you're guaranteed to get into a fight with going into these rooms. I got so sick of this battle system that I actually found a code to start me at max stats just so I could hopefully show the rest of the game. But I couldn't. This game is so tedious and boring that I actually gave up on it. I tried to give it a shot and get through it, but I couldn't. I'm sorry. This game has not aged well, and despite spawning a great series of games, this one in particular is just boring. I don't recommend playing this at all. Just stick with the current games.
Oh, that was so annoying to get through. And it's such a shame too. I really wanted to like this game, but I can't. It's so boring. Well, anyways, I'm pretty sure enough people are gonna hunt me down for this video anyways. So I hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you next. Oh, right.
So, apparently, there exists a Megami Tensei game on the MSX computer. Much like the Famicom game, this was never released outside of Japan. And get this game came out just 2 months prior to the Famicom game, effectively making this the very first game in the whole franchise. You think it would be just the same game but on the computer, but no, it's completely different. This game is actually an overhead action game, more like Gauntlet. Seriously, your character even throws his sword at his enemies. Jeez, how many swords does this guy have? This game did actually get a remake shortly after on the PC 88, but I'll be focusing on the MSX version. Unfortunately, there's no English translation for this game. My best guess is that it follows the same story as the other one. This time, Yumiko is not with you through this journey, though I think you see her around the place. Maybe that's her? Who knows. So, for the most part, you run around this place shooting your swords at what seems like evil sponges and getting treasures. Thankfully, because it is an overhead game walking around in smaller spaces, it's generally a bit easier to not get lost. Though holding the escape button brings up the map, which can give you a better idea of what the stage looks like, though it doesn't tell you where the exit is. Going through this game, you'll be descending through multiple floors and you'll gradually see stronger enemies. You'll go from yellow sponges to red sponges. Eventually you'll get past the sponges and you'll fight what looks like crabs? I think? Who knows? They just move back and forth and shoot projectiles at you when you're in their line of sight. They don't even turn left or right. Let's just hope that they're content with just looking at the two walls. Obviously, given the type of game this is, you can't actually speak to your enemies to join your side. You see them, you stab them until they stop moving. They don't even drop any experience. Hell, they don't even drop anything. So they're just getting in your way while exploring. One thing I don't get the purpose of is this moon icon here. In the other games, the moon is supposed to dictate the behavior of your opponents, making them more aggressive or passive depending on how full it is. But here, the enemies seem to act just the same regardless. So as far as I'm concerned, it's just there for decoration. While opening treasure chests, you'll receive what I can only assume are maca and other crap that I really don't get what their purpose is. Though watch out, open certain chests and a spider pops out. Sounds about right. I suppose I could just read the instruction manual, but that won't help. Since it's in Japanese, I can't be able to read it, so I'm really screwed. It's entirely possible that there's something I'm missing, but I can't find a lot of information on this game. Though, I doubt whatever I do find is barely gonna help me as I keep dying on the first few floors. This game can be somewhat unforgiving if you're not careful. Attacking can be somewhat unreliable. When pressing the attack button, you need to be very deliberate when pressing it. If you press the attack button too fast, your guy will do nothing and just sit there and wait for his inevitable demise. My first few attempts ended up getting me killed because of this. And if you die, you go back to the main menu and have to start all over. What else would I expect? If you want to get back to where you left off, you're going to need a password. But you're going to have to wait a long while before you even get one. Especially if you decide to explore the entire floor, collecting everything you can get your hands on. It really doesn't help that your life meter is pretty small. It doesn't look that hard, but since you can't get hit often, each floor is crawling with a bunch of enemies, and you need to go through 10 floors just to actually get a password to continue. You'll eventually end up taking enough damage that you'll have to start over. And after all this time, I only found one potion so far. And this was after traversing many floors, so you better not get hit often and save it. After many retries, I finally reached the end of the section by floor 10. And you better hope you have the computer as it's required at this part. Oh, you didn't look into the room right next to the one you started at? Well, you might as well start over if that's the case. Here, you can select to move on to the next area, check the overall map, and even get a password. Thank God. Although, you better hope you can memorize a bunch of symbols. What's weird is that this computer has a battery life. I don't know what that's about, but I can sure tell you I have not seen a charger nor a battery at this place, and I'd hate to see what would happen if it ran out of juice. After doing some digging around, I found out there are 160 floors. 160! Have mercy! I could barely make it through 10 floors of this game. I can't even imagine what the rest of this game is like. And the kicker is, from my understanding, it's possible that this game just loops. You reach the end, back to the start. I'm not entirely sure if that's true or not, but I'm not finding out. While not horrendous, it's nothing special. Walking around looking for treasures and even fighting the enemies is kind of boring. And this game requires some patience if you decide to play it. While it is possible that there's something I don't know that'll make this game easier, I can't find anything, so I'd pass this up if I were you.
Oh god, that was not any better. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but these games suck! I mean, I love the Megami Tensei games. I love Nocturne. I love Persona. Maybe there's a game out there that'll make this whole thing worthwhile. Maybe if I just keep saying stuff, something will happen. Aw, thank you, magically convenient television.
The title translates to Kyaku Megami Tensei, and I completely butchered that, and is actually an SNES remake of not only the first game, but the second one as well. So if you can't get enough Megamis in your life, then this is for you. And thankfully, this does have some decent improvements. When starting the first game, it gives a brief explanation of the plot, and while nothing can top that amazing scene from the Famicom version, this does a pretty decent job. What's weird is that despite the cutscenes telling us the names of the two main characters, you can actually change their names. I don't know, it just feels kind of pointless giving us their names if we're just gonna change it a minute later. Once again, you distribute 15 points to each of them and make them overpowered in certain areas. The graphics are nice and appealing. It looks like you're actually in some kind of place rather than existing in a space that doesn't believe in floors and ceilings. And when turning, you get a small animation of your guy turning, making it a little less disorienting when playing through the game. It also has a save feature, which is kind of handy, way better than that long ass password. This game also includes a fully built-in map, which makes navigating easier to deal with, so long as Nakajima is alive. Yeah, I guess he's the only one who decided to write down the map to this dangerous, confusing labyrinth. Lazy bitch. Unfortunately, some of the problems I've mentioned on the Famicom version is still present. The encounter rate is still atrocious. Oh, for love, just go away! You can just take a couple steps before these guys hound you. The battle system remains much of the same. You still can't select which enemies to attack, it's all random. Thankfully, there's icons on the top of the screen to let you know just how many enemies are left and which ones are near death when it turns red. Although, this can be a tiny bit more annoying when you definitely know that these people refuse to attack the more hurt opponents, you stupid motherfucker. Unlike the other games in the franchise, when negotiating with demons, you seem to have a bit more options. You can offer items, persuade, and even intimidate them. I've only found that offering items works so far, but this does give more experimenting when trying to acquire demons. I haven't made it that far, but I found this game just a little bit more engaging than the Famicom version. It's possible that the presentation is just a bit better to experience for me. While not perfect, if you want to experience the original game, I give this one a shot, although it's still far from perfect. While I appreciate everything that the Famicom game started, it just hasn't aged that well at all. It's just tedious to go through. Unless you can deal with the more dated aspects, I recommend avoiding that one and just playing the SNES version.
Oh, God, that was a mouthful. Well, hopefully Atlas won't see this and decide to give me a copyright strike. Ah, God damn it!